Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way YouTube channel. A big thank you to all of our members that are receiving this video just that little bit earlier. If you want to support our work, you can join our YouTube members channel, just £2.99 per month. You'll receive early video access, priority comments, and exclusive members chat function. Click that join button if you're on desktop and get involved with the Celtic Way and become a YouTube member. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Cain Lindsay of the Match of the Day podcast. Cain, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thanks. How are you?
Things are good. Yeah, things are very, very good at this side. Today we're going to be talking about another one of Celtic's new signings. It was a very much a late signing on deadline day for Luke McCowan, um, former Dundee captain, now making the move to his boyhood club in Celtic. He made no secret about that when he joined. You could probably see it when he came on against Rangers in the recent 3-0 win as well. It's like a fan coming onto the pitch. Cain, you've been watching him for a few years now, as well as documenting his progress over the summer with a move. What was your first impressions on Luke McCowan as a player?
I think it was just his dedication in that. You know what I mean? Like towards the end, from the start and the end, just how much effort he put in, and the whole summer has just been the talk about him. There's not really been much other chat Dundee wise about any players leaving. There's not been any worry about any stars leaving other than McCowan, and he came in and he's just worked his socks off right until the last minute, and just an absolute grafter. I think it was always going to be a stepping stone for him. You mentioned there about it being his boyhood club, and you can see how much he's going to love being a part of the club. But it was always going to be a stepping stone, but he didn't sort of take advantage of us in any way at all. He didn't take advantage of Dundee in any way. It was just a good way to get out there, you know, and get into that next level. And he's shown in the games against the likes of Celtic or Rangers, Aberdeen, the bigger clubs in the country, that he's capable. So I think just his work rate and his attitude, just exemplary, and that's probably why he was made temporary captain while Shaughnessy's been out.
Yeah, he's definitely taken up that mantle really, really well. I've watched games for him, both against Celtic and against other teams. I think in particular, there was that recent game that was on Premier Sports. It was Dundee versus Hearts at Dens Park, where I thought he was an absolute standout in the middle of the park. Are you surprised at all about this move? There's been a lot of talk in the media about there being a potential surprise that Celtic are going for a player from Dundee to bolster their midfield. Were you personally surprised at this move happening, especially so late on in the window?
No, no. I mean, from a footballing perspective, no, and from a Luke McCowan and his background perspective, certainly not. You seen when he walked out of the tunnel, it was like a kid on Christmas. You know, it was the reaction that you and all the Celtic fans have every time you walk into that place, and you can see what it meant for him. So, in that perspective, no, like it's something he's obviously wanted his whole life, and it's why he's been working this hard to get to this point. Uh, as in the footballing perspective, I know Celtic have got, you know, they're in the Champions League now straight away. And they've got winnable games coming up in the Champions League, and they've got this cash that they can go and spend on some players like Engels. I understand did you break your record for him? I believe.
11 million,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of money. You know what I mean? So to look at a player from Dundee, maybe some of the fans might not be as happy, but a million is going to turn out to be an absolute steal. You've done that in the past with the likes of Ryan Christie or Stuart Armstrong, where you've taken them from a lower club. You've turned them into a really good player. They've enjoyed their time there. They've won things. They've got Champions League or European experience certainly, and then moved them on for a bit of a profit. So I don't. This is what Celtic can do. They can go and get these stars from abroad, but there's talent here in Scotland, and there's talent, in the form of Luke McCowan, and he could be a squad player. I would like to see him starting a lot, but as far as squad players go, there's no point in going and spending money elsewhere when £1 million for Celtic, it's not really too much. For Dundee, it's brilliant. Like they were delighted to get that, and it would have been a shock if he'd left for Hibs, but I don't think Hibs was ever on the cards. I understand the sporting director Malky Mackay said that they were willing to match the offer, but um, Dundee are at a point now where they're trying to, broke into top six last year. The next step's Europe. You want to leave the likes of Hibs and that behind and try and assert yourself in Scotland as, this maybe third, fourth, fifth best team in the country, and that would have been a huge step backwards for the club, selling them to the likes of Hibs. So Celtic are there because they're champions. They've got that, the allure of playing in the Champions League, hearing that music under the floodlights, and not only that, but there's a Scotland cap for him in the future. It's not,
Yep.
This is something that had he gone to Hibs, that's not happening. Had he gone down south, he could easily get lost. Celtic are at the top of Scottish football for a reason, and that's where they will look. This national team will look to bring players from. Not a shock at all, and there's absolutely no doubt that he will still get a good reception when he comes back to Dens Park.
Yeah, he definitely seems as if he's taking his chance while at Dundee, especially under Tony Docherty, who's doing a tremendous job at Dundee just now. I do agree with you in the fact that it would have maybe been a sideward step or a step back going to Hibs, because I think Dundee are going places, especially with that manager at the helm. I was reading up about Luke McCowan, and I realised that he was playing out wide for quite a bit before he was moved in centrally. I think that was to accommodate Charlie Adam in the midfield, but once Tony Docherty came in, I think it was Bowyer that was playing him out wide, but once he went into the middle, he really came alive as a sort of this sort of mobile midfielder. Has Tony Docherty been a big influence for him in terms of really getting him to kick on in his career?
Yeah, and even just the likes of like handing him the captaincy and giving him that responsibility for this guy who we signed in 2021. So not been there that long, really, when you think about it. And I think when you mentioned him playing out wide, it's something that he got to do it in the cup against Airdrie, which is really good to see. When Dundee are sort of in the ascendancy, they can afford to let the likes of him or Cameron, whoever it may be, kind of drift out wide. They've got that protection of Mo Salah, who's an absolute rock in that defensive midfield role, who I'm just really pleased they kept him in the window. Could have easily gone somewhere. But McCowan, when they're in the ascendancy against a team like that, and especially like in the championship season where they were winning most of the games, you can afford to let him drift out wide, and he can be just as dangerous. His delivery is excellent. You see it all the time for Dundee, even from the middle. He had one against, I think it was maybe also in the Airdrie game over the top for Tiffany. Just pinged it from way back. But he's out wide. He can be a danger, and no disrespect to the guys Celtic have got, but I think your wingers are sort of more sort of flair players, a lot of pace. I don't know if the likes of Maeda or Kyogo or somebody could, maybe deliver the ball as well as McCowan can. They've got other strengths, and certainly up front, especially McCowan, maybe not so much. But no, he's good out wide. He was brilliant in the middle, though. Once Docherty had moved him in there, and he still had that freedom because of what Silla was doing, and he could drift and quite box to box. And that I'd asked my pal that was doing the podcast with who would you liken him to, and not to get the hopes up, but he says he's like a Griezmann that can't finish as well, an Antoine Griezmann that can't finish as well. Just that like I mentioned at the start, the work ethic of never stopping. He's got that passing range. He can take a player on. His awareness, just probably the best in the squad. But Docherty's done wonders for his career, and he will be really thankful because, like we said, this is the move that he's wanted since he was a little boy, and I don't know if he would have got it without the help of Docherty. He certainly got the quality, but the opportunity was all Docherty's doing.
Yeah, it sounds like he's a massive inspiration to him. Just what are his strengths? What would you say are his main strengths that he's got? You talk about his delivery, his hard work, his work rate is always at a top level. I noticed that, especially when he was playing against Celtic at Dens Park in that tight 2-1 game near the end of last season. I thought he was one of the best players on the park that maybe did bring him to Brendan Rodgers' attention, and then obviously made that move late on in the transfer window. But what would you say his main strengths are, Cain?
Well, like I say, his delivery is like perfect. His passing range is quite wide. I think his awareness, though, that I mentioned is just so. There was times where him and Cameron would sort of Silla's sitting there, and him and Cameron can kind of take turns charging forward. And when I mentioned he likes to drift out wide, he would only do so knowing that there's cover for him, or that he can get into that position and not really hinder the team much. So his awareness was brilliant, but I think that's all come from kind of that opportunity from Docherty to play all over the board, and he's grown into that role really well. He's always switched on all the time. At times, I actually got annoyed. One time, I was sitting with my pal watching one of the games, and I said it kind of looks like he's drifting in and out of games, but it's in that sort of sense that he's he's watching all the time to see what's going on and to see what he can do. And he's got that, I don't know, just the patience. The patience that a team like Dundee, they don't often get the chance to have, because usually it's backs against the wall. But in this regime under Doc, it's changed quite a lot. But no, certainly his vision and his passing range, his work ethic is brilliant, and that'll only improve playing for a club that you really want to play for. No, I would, like I said, I would like to see him play. There's a player in there. Hopefully, he doesn't become a squad player, but you're going to look back and £1 million is going to be a steal.
Yeah, I think that's the hope for a lot of Celtic fans. He's up. I hope that he's up for the challenge, because he's going to have to try and displace the likes of Arne Engels, Paulo Bernardo, Rio Hatate, potentially Callum McGregor, Odin Thiago Holm to a lesser extent. There are players in that squad that have been brought in for more money than Luke McCowan. But do you think he'll be up for that challenge? Rubbing shoulders with some of the best midfielders in the league. Because you could argue that he's one of the best midfielders in the league, out with Celtic and Rangers. A lot of teams would have been quite happy to have them on their books. Look at Hibs; they nearly tried to get him. I think he would have instantly walked into that Hibs team. So, do you think he'll be up for that challenge in terms of coming up against the likes of Hatate and Paulo Bernardo and Cal McGregor to try and get in that starting lineup? Could potentially be a player that Celtic bring in for the domestic games while other players are playing European games? Or do you think he can make that step up in Europe as well?
Like I said, I mean, there's winnable games in Europe this year. It's not being restricted
for Celtic.
Bratislava, certainly. Bruges, there's no reason you can't go out and get a result there. And then even the Young Boys game, I believe, is also at home. There's winnable games that I don't know about starting those games, but we'll see how he does domestically. And then I think the Young Boys one's possibly after the new year. So a run of games domestically until that, he could easily break into that. But he'll believe he can. And the difference with him and some of your other options is that this is a guy he's been watching you since he was little. You know what I mean? This means more to him, you can argue, than some of the foreign players. Maybe not so much McGregor, but he will believe that he can do that. And you'd also mentioned that he's part of this midfield that was maybe one of the better ones in the league anyway. Him, Cameron and Silla, I mean, I think Aberdeen, even Rangers, would be delighted to have a midfield like that. The stability that they had is something that you've not seen certainly from Rangers anyway. You didn't see that on Sunday either, but no, he'll believe he can get into that team. It might take a little while, but he's got the quality, yeah, certainly.
Yeah, he sounds like a good signing, and it seems as if Dundee were quite happy to, well, maybe not happy to let him go, but happy for him to sort of realise his dream. You seen that in the Celtic Park video late at night. Nobody else was in the stadium bar him and the cameraman, and he was absolutely blown away. It was good that I suppose you watched the game on Sunday. It was good that he was brought on for 20 minutes to sort of sample the Glasgow Derby atmosphere. You're just hoping maybe as a Dundee supporter looking on that can be the first of many for him for Celtic.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think the experience of getting into a game like that, and when Celtic are in this form as well, and I think you still can see the goal this season, and that's always going to rub off on the players when you are performing as well as that. When you mentioned them at the walking through the tunnel and having a look at the stadium and that, I think one of the main things I've been glad to see is just like I mentioned, he's not going to get booed when he comes to Dens Park. There's been a really amicable sort of transfer and realising his dream, you know what I mean? And I think that it worked out well for both parties. But yeah, that's a start. Getting into a game like that against Rangers, you never know, international break, the players will be going away for Celtic and coming back, they might want to rest. Europe certainly will help getting to play as many games. I think there's more games, isn't there, in the groups this year? So there's going to be more opportunities there. Yeah, so you've got you'll be wanting to rest some of the probably some of your regular starters, and for £1 million to bring in a guy like that just to offer a bit of respite for some of those guys. And you mentioned the hunger. He'll be hungry to, when he gets the opportunity, to take advantage of it and ask a question of Rodgers why he's not starting more frequently.
Yeah, he sounds like he's got a great attitude to the game. Is there anything else that you want to tell maybe the Celtic support about Luke McCowan? Is there any stories in particular that you've heard about him? I know that he used to be a lifeguard before he turned fully professional at Ayr United. So that does show you how well he's done to really make it from Ayr United to Celtic. Is there any stories or anything that people should know about Luke McCowan, the player or the person?
I've not actually heard much. No, I mean we've kind of just been doing this podcast for since the start of this season, and although I've been watching them and kind of saw a move like this eventually happening for him, no, I've not heard too much. But just keep mentioning his attitude. Like there's nothing. There's never been any sort of controversy. Never really turning around and snapping at any of his players. Even though he held the captaincy, he sort of he was that leader that he didn't really criticise others, and I think he just kind of gets as much as a captain should be, leading from the front. He kind of just gets his head down and gets his work done. And
Bit like Callum McGregor in that way, sort of
yeah, there's no
allowing his
point
football to do the talking.
there's no point in creating problems for yourself. Just do your job and go in and out every week and show why you're there. So no, but I had heard that about the lifeguard thing. Yeah, that's maybe just shows again what kind of character he is. He's just a grafter, is he?
Yeah.
No, I think he's gonna be a great addition, and not even just for Celtic fans, but I hope for all Scottish football supporters can enjoy him in the national team eventually as well. So, good move for all parties involved.
Yeah, it's good to see a fellow Scottish player making his way into Celtic as well. Thank you very much, Cain, for joining me. Before I let you go, where can people find you that if they want to tune into your latest podcast?
Yeah, so we've started putting it on YouTube. It's on Spotify too. Match of the Tay. All started just because we thought that name was too good not to do something with. So it just covers all things Dundee football, from the juniors, the United women's team, to the two clubs on the same street. But yeah, just find it on Spotify, YouTube. We've got a Twitter page and Instagram page as well.
Perfect.
But yeah, thank you for having me on, and look after the boy.
Bother at all. Yeah, well, I'm sure that Celtic certainly will, and we're looking forward to that. Thanks again to everybody for watching. If you want to support the Celtic way just that little bit more, you can join our YouTube members channel. It's just £2.99 per month. You'll receive early video access, such as this one, priority comments, and exclusive members chat function. We'll be back soon with another video detailing all things Celtic and all things Celtic players. Until then, thank you very much. Have a very good rest of your day, and thanks once again, Cain, for jumping on this video. Cheers, guys, and have a very good day.